Hello and welcome to More Than a Game, episode 100. We've hit the ton. Congratulations to us, obviously. But look, in all seriousness, though, a big thank you from Colby, Jesse, Damo, George, Andy, and myself to all our loyal listeners who have stuck with us. You might have been there from episode 1. You might have only just recently joined us, but look, thank you to all of our loyal listeners for tuning in and contributing to the pod. Without the listeners, wouldn't really be much of a podcast. It'd just be us having a chat. So thank you to all of the listeners. 100 great episodes, and may the next 100 be even better. This week I'm joined by Jesse, and from across the other side of the world, George. Welcome.
Yeah, morning or evening your time, lads. I've just woken up on Monday morning, so it's nothing better than seeing your faces first thing.
Mate, it's great to have you. It's great to have you on. I'm just worried about how the stream's going to go with your lag. But you know what? You've probably got better internet than we do here in Australia. So
fingers crossed, boys. Fingers crossed.
Mate, any jackhammering there this morning, or it's looking like it's all good?
No, there will be some. I think we've just got in slightly earlier, so hopefully by the time we're done, the boys will get started on the tools.
Oh, very good. And Jesse, what about you, mate? How's your work? The start to your work week been?
Well, yeah. I mean, we're going to get onto it soon, but it was an early start this morning, and Mondays are shit anyway. Then throw on top of a couple of results, and really is the cherry on top. So, I won't hold you up anymore. Let's just get right into it.
Mate, welcome to the world of the rest of us. That's all I can say, Jesse. But look, let's crack into it. Lots to talk about today, and look, we've got to let George get off to work as well. So we've got a time frame here. So gents, all right, let's kick off with moment of the week. Jesse, what caught your attention this week?
Well, it was my boy James Rodriguez. Tommie, I think you're a fan as well, I hear.
I am.
So just the fact that he's backing up his performances, and I was proven wrong. I remember having a chat to you on the weekend before the Brighton game, and I said to you that because of Alan being out and Gomez and a few injuries there, I thought he was going to be James was going to be a bit quiet, quite exposed. And that Brighton were probably the smoky to win that game. And just watching the game and Brighton capitulate, a lot of it was down to James just popping up at the far post. And admittedly, some excellent deliveries went his way, but he had to take them. And he's backing up, not just I think a lot of people expected him to play well, but he'd have the odd good performance. But the reason why it's my moment of the week is that he's actually backing his performances up. And admittedly, he hasn't played any really, really good teams yet, but you can only play what's in front of you, so good on him.
Indeed. Look, he's been a revelation so far. I mean, not just him, but that whole Everton team, they are absolutely humming at the moment. But like I said, more on that in a little bit. What about you, George? What's caught your attention?
Well, it's been a pretty exciting week. A couple of highlights. I think Ollie Watkins getting a hat-trick against Liverpool. There were a few sort of people doubting whether he could sort of step up into the Premier League after a good season at Brentford last year, and he's now off and running, and I've tipped him for big things this year. I think I had him in my list as one of my boys, so as long as he continues like this, it'll be pretty good. And also one other thing as well, the classic sort of hot penalty, which we saw Jorginho destroy a couple, and then Bruno Fernandes got involved as well yesterday. So it seems to be unbeatable at the moment. Although I think Jorginho's only missed one. Alisson got him, but aside from that, yeah.
Someone made a good point. I can't remember who the commentator was about goalkeepers maybe just sort of delaying their dive a little bit and just holding still. But you're right. Like the hop seems to have thrown just about every goalkeeper in the league, and no one knows what to do with it. It's like it's the googly all over again.
Yeah. So, and with the amount of penalties in the Premier League and around the world this season, it's a very handy little tool to have.
I like how Bruno does both, though. Like he's got it in his locker, but then sometimes you just go for the classic penalty. So you want that. You want some variety?
Absolute mind games at the spot.
Yeah, look, for me, I had, as everyone has come to expect, I had more than just one moment of the week this way. And first one was someone referring to Aymeric Laporte as Eric on Twitter during the week, and he's really bought into it now, and he's just going by I'm Eric Laporte on Twitter, and naturally Amazon got on board as well, and they're now just I'm Azon. As well. So I thought that was pretty funny as well. So Eric Laporte now is he's now known. Second one was Wayne Rooney. He popped up in the championship with a cracker of a free kick. And look, I've got to be honest, I didn't know Wayne Rooney was still playing, but he's still kicking about. I think he's with Fulham at the moment. But if there was one thing that Derby. Yeah, sorry, you're right.
Fulham will be back in the championship next year. So.
Yeah.
But if there was one thing that was a little bit, I thought a little bit strange about this free kick was that for the Wayne Rooney free kick, I thought the wall seemed to be a long, long way back. Like sometimes you see it, and from the naked eye, you're thinking, is that 10 yards or is that like 12 or 13? But because the wall, like they're on the penalty spot, but the ball is actually placed a good 2 yards ahead of that the circle, or the D, I guess, at the top of the box, and so you can see quite clearly that it's a lot more than 10 yards. So interesting there. But George, what about you? What didn't you like this week?
Well, I was just going to jump on the free kick theme as well, Tommie. And my almost moment of the week was De Bruyne's free kick, which he nearly caught the kidnapping, and he looking at his face, he was in shock. My almost moment of the week was De Bruyne for that.
It was the Joe Bryan from the Championship playoff last season, all over again.
I'm trying to remember which.
Originally Gary McAllister, Tommie, if we want to go back in time.
We can go back to we'll put that one up on YouTube for all the listeners and watchers of this one. We probably won't, but
I'm not. Did they have video when Gary McAllister was playing, or
on repeat? It's on the DVD. On DVD.
My own goals. Geez, like where do we begin? I haven't discussed these with you, but obviously. Number one, I think, has got to be Jordan Pickford. Like, how many mistakes can you make in a continuous run of 3 months before you're going to get dropped? Or, I mean, it's pretty incredible how shocking his fall from grace is from the being England's number one at the World Cup, and then
he was a real darling of England sort of for a while, wasn't he?
Yeah, and there's a lot of competition there, and Southgate's picked him again because it's an international week this week, so it'll be interesting to see whether he actually plays. But he's just and if Everton want to mount, I don't want to buy into the Everton the title chat yet, but if they're going to be a serious title challenger or even top four, you can't be having all those mistakes at the back when your attack's just humming so well. So also another England one, keeping on the England theme, Harry Maguire. He's also forgotten how to defend, and the one good thing he used to be able to do was head the ball. If you saw one of the goals last night, I think that it was the one where he also pulled down Luke Shaw as well. So couldn't manage a header back to De Gea.
He man marked Shaw out of the game.
Yeah, man,
really
took him out of the game. There was also the one where he was the cross came in from the byline and went through his legs. Like some of the defending from Harry of late has been.
The man's still on holidays, isn't he?
Yeah. I know he had a big pre-season in Mykonos, but it seems to be playing on his mind. And then I think a few of the commentators were saying, it'll be good to see get his confidence back playing in the England shirt and that sort of stuff. Well, if Pickford's playing behind him and Harry Maguire's centre back, I don't know what's going to happen to their confidence.
But also, how ridiculous is that you go to play for your national team to like get your confidence back? Like it just doesn't make any sense to me. But Jesse, what about you, mate? What didn't you like this week?
I was particularly scathing of Pickford midweek. I really. Yeah, and then he goes and does that again. So I've run out of patience with him. I can't imagine what Ancelotti's feeling right now. He was actually as well in my thoughts for own goal of the week. And that was all before the absolute shitstorm of last night happened. And I woke up, so I had to rub my eyes at the 6-1 from Manchester United, and then proceeded to sit through an absolute travesty after that. So I have to say my own goal was getting up early this morning to watch the football.
I think there are a few people
bitter about that. Yeah.
Yeah, look, all right. My own goal this week was Serginho Dest. I think I've pronounced that correctly. He was signed by Barcelona during the week from Ajax for I think it was roughly $20 million fee. Now, whenever a player signed for a club, they seem to they get him in, do some photos, give him. Present the shirt to them and so on and so forth. Maybe get him to do a few keepy uppies. But Serginho Dest, he took it to next level. I think it was Paulinho a couple of years ago who could barely kick a ball, and it was a bit of a bad omen for how things sort of went for him at the club. Things didn't really go very well at all for Serginho. He could barely sort of do one keepy uppy, let alone 5 or 10 or do any tricks. But what did make me laugh was that they the Barcelona website managed to find at least one highlight out of the 5 minutes of keepy uppy or attempts at keepy uppy, and managed to get a video of him doing basically a trick, which so good on them. But Serginho, not a good start, buddy.
Well, he actually came on last night against Sevilla for Barcelona with about 20 minutes to go because Jordi Alba got injured, and he looked okay actually playing at left back. So maybe he's putting that to bed, Tommie. We'll see. It was only a 20-minute cameo, but he looked pretty sharp.
I hope they used Tina Turner's "Simply the Dest" in the background while he was being unveiled, because if they haven't, they've really missed a trick.
You love this guy just for his name, don't you, Jesse?
I think you've got 10 more ready to go.
I do. Destination known.
Look, my other one, and this will be quick, I promise, was Man United naming their player of the month. And I guess this is just sort of a bit of a sign of the times where clubs are really hungry for content, and they've got to put it up on social media and their websites and so forth. But I mean, Man United haven't had the greatest of months, and I think that showed by them naming Juan Mata as their player of the month, a player who didn't start a Premier League game for them during the month of September. So yeah, good job, Man United.
Wow.
It was him or Van der Beek, wasn't it? Really?
Oh, grim. All right, let's move on. A few things to cover though before we get into the Premier League. First up, a little bit of kit chat. Last week we talked a lot about A-League and all of the kits that were launched. This week there was one that we were particularly waiting on that wasn't yet launched, and it's Western City Wanderers' new Kappa kit. George, did you see this one over in London at all? Or?
This hasn't made its way over to the UK just yet. So I'll leave you two for the comments on that one.
Well, this maybe it breaks into sort of the second part of this, because so Vuj or Voy, I don't know how you say his name, the Copper 90 guy, he on Twitter was basically asking if they can send one over to him. I'm guessing for free, since he asked if he could do it to influence in. Which I mean, that just exactly, Jesse. It made me cringe a little bit, and I guess what was even worse was the Wanderers and also even Mark Bosnich got on board as well, just sort of simping to say, oh yeah, we'll do whatever you want. Oh wow. And it was a real sign of, I guess, where the A-League's at, that there are players and people around Australia that everyone wants this kit. A lot of people like it, and some European guy pops up, and maybe that's a little bit disrespectful. He seems to be quite popular, this guy. But some guy pops his head up and says, "Oh, can you send us one?" And all these people are falling over themselves to send him one, when obviously the A-League's core market is here people in Australia. So bit sad to see. But Jesse, look, what did you think of the jersey? Did you like it?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a sucker for that kind of kit. I love red and black. I mean, I'm a little bit biased to that because I grew up in a area of New Zealand where our sort of area's colours is red and black. So I suppose I've always liked that combo. But I do like some of the subtleties. They seem to have got a lot of the proportions right. A lot of people were commenting on the thickness of the stripes, and some people were a little bit divided by the white. I think it's the white collar someone weren't sure about it.
I'm a bit concerned about the thickness of the collar there. It looks a bit flimsy from what I've just pulled up on the Google image search there. So proportionally, I think the collar's a bit too small.
Well, you really need someone that's just got an absolute tank of a neck to offset that. So they're all going to just be doing trap workouts in the off season.
It's a shame that Mitch Duke has left the Wanderers, because he would have been a good fit for that for that collar.
Trap watch.
Trap watch.
They've got a long pre-season, so they can spend a bit of time in the gym.
Everyone just comes back from pre-season with just like shovel necks.
It's like FIFA 96 or something, or the graphics.
Oh dear. All right. One final thing before we get into the Prem is talk of transfers. So, a couple of big moves in the last couple of days. First one is Ryan Brewster to Sheffield United for 23 million. Jesse, you're a Liverpool fan. You're sad to see him go, or you're happy with the deal?
I'm happy. I'm happy for both sides, because I think that there's a real fine line between keeping people because you want to sort of improve the asset to also just sort of choking their career a little bit. One thing about Brewster that we're quite familiar with at the club is that he kind of fell behind everybody by about 12 to 18 months because he had a serious knee injury. So all these players that have sort of come through and are kind of ripe to move on to bigger things, he was in that same school, that same sort of year group, but he kind of fell behind by about 18 months in his development. So he clearly wants to go and start at another club. I mean, I know that Sheffield will probably rotate quite a bit, but he actually wants more game time. And he just, unfortunately, he's playing at a club where he wasn't going to get much of that. I said to Damo during the week, we had a good chat about this, and I was saying that I think he's different to your Jordan Ives, your Solankis, where those were just literally, we're not going to give you time at this club and sell them off. Whereas this is actually a case of Brewster probably could have played his part, but I think Klopp's given him what he wants, what the player wants. So all the best to him.
Fair enough. Interesting take. Damo in the comments is saying that the Brewster's played 20 senior league games. So I'm guessing Damo thinks that maybe they've done a bit of a job on Sheffield United.
That's the average pints per episode for more than a game. So, if it works for us, it can work for Sheffield.
Moving on, you got Vladimir Kufal, who's been signed by West Ham. Finally, West Ham have made a signing, £5 million for a Czech defender. I think he's just been signed pretty much because he's a decent pro and he's one of Souček's mates.
Yeah,
so
the Souček was a bit lonely in London, so he needed to.
Yeah, it's got real like Sunday League vibes about it. Like, oh yeah, you need a right back. Oh, I know a right back. Like, I'll just get him on the phone. Mate, awesome player. He played in the youth setup at this club. Yeah, sure. And look, Connor Cochran as well. He's dropped into the commentary as well, saying that we need to give a little bit more coverage to Spurs. So, mate, here it is. Carlos Vinicius, he's been signed on loan plus a £40 million option. Scored 18 goals last year in 30 appearances for Benfica. What do you think of this, gents? As I guess really is going to be backup for Kane. Expensive backup though, isn't it?
Well, they needed a backup because going in with one sort of recognised striker, and then you had your Son and your Muras, so it doesn't seem to work for the entire season. So if this is the guy Mourinho's going to sort of hitch his wagon to, then there's a record of guys coming in from Portugal and being good and being able to manage in the Premier League. But it'll be. Kane's in such good form at the moment, so there's a bit of pressure off. But if Kane goes down and Son goes down, which they usually do at some point, then everyone's going to look to him. So it'll be big shoes to fill.
Yeah, and I guess once European games start up again, what we might see is Vinicius even getting more game time in the league, so that Kane can, stretch his legs in Europe, and because I guess that's really where we see Jose probably prioritising, given that they really need to make Champions League and winning the Europa League plus. Winning the Europa League might be their best shot at making Champions League for next season.
Well, not after the big win, Tommie. Surely Surely just gunning.
Well, you're right. It may
chocolate
be too
tape.
early to say yet, but yeah, I guess we'll see over the next couple of months how that's going to pan out. One final one though, George. Ross Barkley's gone on loan to Villa. Obviously had a good game overnight for the Villains. You sad to see Ross leave, or you happy? Sort of don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Yeah, he's sort of a polarizing figure, Barkley, because he's got the talent, and he's a real preseason absolute superstar. He's world class in preseason. He scores a lot of goals, and then when you need him throughout the year, he sort of flatters to deceive, and he goes in and out of games. And I think Chelsea just had slightly too much depth in midfield, and he's good to have, and I think he's good enough. He's got enough caliber to play at a big club. He's just never consistent enough to sort of nail down a spot, and you're not sort of you don't want to rely on him in the crunch time in massive games. So yeah, there you go. Damo's just said Aston Villa. Well, yeah. So I think it's a good get for Aston Villa, and he could sort of carry them to the next level if he stays fit. But yeah, I just don't think at a top 4 club he's consistent enough to sort of nail down a spot.
He could walk straight on the set of Peaky Blinders, so he immediately qualifies.
Him and Jack together. How about that?
Yeah.
It's perfect that he's gone to Birmingham then.
Yeah.
What's his name? Matty Cash also looked like he was a prime Peaky Blinders.
Yeah.
All right, gents. One final one, and look, this hasn't gone through, but I think it's almost got the we're on here from Romano, which is Cavani to Man United on a free. So just very quickly, what do you think? Boom or bust, Jesse?
I like Cavani. I mean, I know that there's some school of thought that they think that the game's moved on and he's not really much use anymore, but I'm very surprised that he hasn't been snapped up already. In fact, when Atletico were looking to bolster their ranks before Suarez, I'm surprised they didn't sort of go back to him. So no, I think it's. I mean, it's funny because it's a typical Man United sort of Zlatan signing. So in the context of that, it's a bit of an interesting one. But I'm glad to see he's actually going to go to a club, because he's too good a player at the end of his career to just peter out and go to a league that we're not watching.
Yeah, and on that, I don't think he's cooked yet. So Damo's just dropped in a comment about Falcao 2.0. I think he hasn't done his knee recently, so I think he's got another year or two left in him. And given the amount of strikers Man U have, he won't play every week, so he'll be able to be deployed and every second game or in Europe or something like that. So I think he'll be decent, but I don't think he'll solve Man U's problems.
Tommie, just hot off the press, I think they were saying, Romano was saying that Eric Garcia and who was the other
Memphis.
one? Memphis are off to Barca. So that's the other one.
That's big news, I guess. Koeman getting a Dutchman to join him there, so having a little Dutch oven there, I imagine.
and Garcia will probably be one for the future there. I think he wasn't going to re-sign at City, so I think he'll just slot into there. He might be the next PK kind of off the ranks in a few years. But and he's been playing for City, so he's obviously talented. But yeah, so it's a good get for Barcelona when they don't have much money. So I don't know about Memphis. Well, Memphis, we'll see. But I watched Barcelona play last night, and they sort of had the front three of Messi, Ansu Fati, and Griezmann, and it sort of didn't quite work. Well, Griezmann was a bit anonymous, so maybe Memphis can slot in as a false nine, and Griezmann will drop out of the starting lineup.
What they need to do is just play 3 false nines up front with Griezmann, Depay, and Messi. That would be elite.
I just want to see Griezmann be rumoured to go to a new club and then release a documentary called The Decision again. That'd be great.
Alrighty, on to the Premier League now, though. So look, it was a pretty crazy round of Premier League fixtures, and look, we sometimes say that a little bit, but look, I think everyone would agree that last night was absolutely bonkers. Another 41 goals were scored this round, another bag load of penalties, big club implosions, and probably the most bizarre one was West Ham kept a clean sheet. Sounded like a bit of a plot of a movie, and we asked our Twitter followers this afternoon to give us some ideas for what the movie could be. Probably the pick of the bunch was basically was a reference to the human centipede, and thought we go with the human centiprem instead. Some others that I came up with: Jose War's Revenge of the Sith, or Ollie, the story of the Aston Villa player who's never scored in the Premier League, but scores a hat trick in the first half against the champion. Just a shame. I thought that I was sort of going for a Rocky vibe there, but it's just a shame, I guess, that the current and former America owners at Villa aren't from Philadelphia there. So.
I thought you were going to drop in an Adrian reference, but
yeah.
Right.
Oh, it was just so obvious I couldn't see it. One final one though, which is when Harry met Shorey, the love story of Harry Maguire meeting Luke Shaw in the penalty box, and it just feeling like fate that Spurs will score as a result. Oh dear. All right. Look, with City dropping points to Leeds United, Man United and Liverpool shipping 6 and 7 goals respectively. Boys, which club do you think should bring in Sam Allardyce to teach him how to defend?
Far out. Well, the weird thing is that like Liverpool just like, for me, I mean, obviously I was most shocked about that result because of the stubbornness and the strategy. So I look at a lot of the goals that were conceded and you just feel like that Klopp was so stubborn with his high line that he just got absolutely found out over and over again. The Man United one's a bit different, where, I mean, a lot of people would say it's because of the red card, but then just the capitulation as well. I think the Harry Maguire gif that we were all referring to earlier indicates that there's a lot more going on than just a few issues at the back with United. There are actually key players who are worth a lot of money making ridiculous decisions. So maybe Big Sam might need to be hired by Harry, which would be on top of all the legal fees he's been paying his lawyers in recent times.
Boys, I don't know if you saw it, but Patrice Evra on the Sky coverage last night. It's one of the all-time Sky sort of YouTube clips, and it's going to last for a long time. He basically said he didn't want to work for Sky anymore. He wanted to quit, and if he was going to continue, he wanted to stop doing Man U games. And it looked like he was breaking down live at the end of the game and at halftime. Really, it was a sensation. It was more sensational than the actual game. But so poor Patrice.
Here at MTAG, we say that it is more than a game, so I guess it's only fitting. But you're right. It was really strange how that all played out, and not only that, but like almost the his co-hosts, they seem to get real sympathetic towards him as well. Like it wasn't a really jovial atmosphere in the studio. I didn't get the impression. Like everyone was kind of like, oh, geez, like he actually sounds really upset. This is really awkward now.
He might actually quit.
Yeah. Can we all just put this in perspective, though? This is the same guy who was filmed live on Twitter about a year ago, just licking a chicken, like a raw chicken. I mean, you know, if I think Sky knew what they were shipping in when they signed that contract.
They wanted positivity. They wanted the positivity. He kept saying, "I'm a really positive guy." And
didn't sound real positive though, did he?
No, fuck me.
All right. Look, if there was one thing I thought about that, it was, I guess, the lack of talk about Spurs as a result of that, like Connor was saying in the comments. But look, we'll come back to that Man United Spurs game, because I don't think that was the big result of the round. I think the big result was the champions. No, look, I'm sorry, Jesse, you're getting thrown under the bus here. The West Ham result was massive, but Villa, like we said, they were only stayed up on goal difference or by 1 point, knocking over the champions, not just by a little bit, but absolutely tonking them. This was, I mean, just a bizarre football match. And I mean, Liverpool have even been in pretty decent form this season. So, couple of things. Villa were up 4-1 at half time, and I think even at that point, you're thinking, oh, we're just hoping that they can win the second half. But Liverpool didn't even win the second half. They lost the second half 3-1 as well. So like just completely bizarre match. A first half hat trick from Ollie Watkins, a pair for Grealish, and a debut goal for Ross Barkley. If that's probably the ultimate sign of how bad Liverpool were in this one. Jesse, where did it all go wrong?
Oh, it's you could write an essay, but to be honest, I think similar to the Spurs situation, I think first of all we have to credit Villa for executing a great game plan. They were brave, even when they were up by a goal or two. They kept going for it, and I've been a massive advocate for that in the past when we've talked about City being unbeatable. In the past couple of years, I've always been really pissed off when I see teams just roll over in front of a team that's top of the table and sort of say, "Oh, we're just going to struggle for a point." I like seeing teams have a go and sort of. And you see some of these results where they can really show their stuff. I think the psychology of going down by a couple of goals is something that Liverpool hasn't had to deal with for a long time, and they didn't respond in a good way. In fact, they were a bit borderline arrogant with the. You could attest that to Klopp as well as the players. They didn't want to change what they were doing. They wanted to stay the same way. They wanted to sort of control the game with the possession, which has been their sort of signature thing for the last couple of years. But Villa weren't interested in possession. They just wanted to break on the counter as quick as possible. And it really just goes to show the modern game is not about just passing the ball around. It's about being efficient with your chances. And Villa, to their credit, were very, very effective with their chances. And it's really interesting, actually, when you break down the goals on that game, because, yes, there are like 3 or so deflections, which is quite unfortunate. But
it's like the opposite of what happened to Brighton the other day.
It is, yeah, it is. But at the same time, they were in those positions. They created the opportunities, and they were just so effective. And it's really interesting. It is like a game of FIFA where once you go down by about 4 goals, you just throw everyone forward trying to make some sort of respect on the scoreline. And all those goals from about 4 on upwards, you have to question whether or not they would occur if you went 4-0 down in the first place. So it gets pretty messy once you get to 4 or 5 goals. It's kind of pretty dark place. And
if Klopp was playing FIFA, is that what went wrong at the very end, where Adrian just went missing for, I think it was when Watkins hit the crossbar?
When he was trying to play out the back as well. The first one.
Adrian frustrates me because one thing that a lot of people swept under the carpet is when we went out to Atletico in the Champions League last year was just how poor he was. We just got back to a point where we were going to potentially take that tie. And he had a really poor clearance from the back, if you remember, and Atletico just pounced and scored a couple of quick goals to take the tie. So that was a real curious moment from him, and he has never looked really like he's got the consistency that we need. And now Alisson's out till late November, so
fantastic.
Yeah. Good for the rest of the league. Good for the rest of the league.
Jesse, what if I put this to you, that this has been threatening to happen since the restart, really, because Liverpool's high line are just giving chances away every single opportunity that they can get, and they've been very lucky, I think, of late. I think they could have conceded not possibly this many, but 4 or 5 goals in a lot of games. Just the way they've been defending.
I don't disagree with you. When you support a team, you obviously watch things a lot closer than people that just watch it from a neutral perspective. And for me, you're shitting yourself every time that high line is applied anyway, because otherwise you're just waiting for the offside flag, hopefully, to go up. So, yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I think that they were exposed by Leeds. They've been exposed by Arsenal a few times before they beat them last week. So I think that the key thing is that football is moving at a rapid rate of knots. Teams are trying to change and be the ones to trailblaze a new style. And I think that Liverpool's idea was that we're going to do this high line. Bayern was sensational at it in the Champions League. But then you've got Everton now, who are top of the league, and they're putting players deep. And that's what their way of solving the defensive woes. So it just seems like it's moving so fast that once you come up with a new trend, another team does their homework and they figure it out, and then you got to adapt. And I think that the stubbornness from Liverpool last night, and as I said, borderline arrogance, is why they got tonked by 7 goals.
I think there's some parallels there between I think City and Liverpool struggling this weekend with I guess we're seeing that teams have not necessarily figured out how to play against that high pressing game, but they know that there is a way to play against it, I guess, and that's if you can get through that first line of press, then you're probably going to be up against a high line, and you're a decent chance for a counter attack then. And we've seen that the teams are, I guess, not only are thinking that's how they can play, but also training about how they can counter attack through that. And so we're finding now that not only that they figured out the theory, but they figured out the practice as well. So look, it only makes for more exciting viewing, I think, for all of us. But look, it's going to be a very even league this season, I guess. And we saw Mane was missing through COVID, and I guess we're only going to see more of this. Already we've had Laporte, and there was someone else missing from City as well recently as well. Yeah, and West Ham had a few players out as well recently. But yeah, look, it only makes the league more interesting, I think. So yeah, look, bring it on, I guess.
And I think it goes to show how big an influence Alisson is on Liverpool, because you mentioned Karius, and we're going back to those days where Liverpool had almost the same team without Alisson, and the difference he made. And he makes
big time.
And we'll see how Van Dijk responds to having the pressure on him, because he hasn't been great of late as well. So
just another comment though on Villa's midfield though, because they were critical on this game, and McGinn just bossed it. And yeah, we just got overrun in the midfield. I mean, I know that we didn't have a goalkeeper that was probably up to it, but I mean, there was so many other areas of the pitch where you could you could see the midfield was getting crushed, which is again like one of the things that Klopp said in his after-match interview, which you enjoyed, Tommie, was it looked like Villa just wanted it more, and I think that's really interesting, because that's basically the kind of thing that Liverpool's game is based on, intensity and wanting it more. So to be outwanted more,
found wanting,
or not wanting enough, I suppose.
Not wanting enough.
But in the context of the league, I think it's actually, you were saying this morning, George, you're taking it pretty well. I mean, the funny thing about this league is points in the bank is the most important thing. So we managed to get through a few weeks getting some wins. We've been tonked. But if we go to Goodison next week and somehow pull a result out of our ass, then everything's okay again. And I think with COVID, like you said, Tommie, you just need to bank a draw or a win when you can. It doesn't matter how you do it. It doesn't have to be an attractive way. And if you lose, well, you've got to move on real quick, because the league is just so relentless right now.
Indeed. Speaking of moving on, Man United also had a really great result, though not so much. In the battle of the counter-attacks. I thought this one, they could have marketed this one as Vader versus Luke, or teams that are good but not really that good. Boys, in this one, I guess we got to see the full gamut of top four teams, or top six teams these days that can do some good things, but also, I mean, on their day are also capable of the horrendous as well. And Harry Maguire, I guess, led the horrendous brigade in this one. We've already mentioned about how he fouled Shaw basically in the lead up for Dombele's goal, which, I mean, that was just some of the worst Premier League defending, or even football defending, I think I've seen at sort of at professional level. I did see just before we jumped on here, and I apologize I don't get credit for this tweet, but someone said, imagine being one of those people that won't watch the A-League because the defending or the standard's not very good, and then you see that between two of the supposed best teams in the world. I mean, yeah, wow.
I think best teams in the world is a big call, but yeah.
Look, I'm going to assume that he or she is a new listener, Bamsy Triso. He wants to know, when did Man United ever have a strong defence? They need threat and attack, football science, when attack shit, defence shambles. So, look, boys, when was the last time you think that Man United actually did have a good defence?
Maybe was Mourinho the coach when the year it was 2017-18 when they came second. But yeah, the funny thing about this game, boys, was Man U actually took the lead. Like 1-0 at the start of the game. I know it was very early, like 30 seconds in.
29 seconds, yeah.
Yeah, close. But you'd think with a 1-0, you could kind of just manage the game a little bit better, but no. So, I mean, I'd love to have seen the odds of going 1-0 up in the first 30 seconds and then losing the amount they did. Pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah, and I guess was the big turning point in this match was the Martial red card, though. As bad as some of the Man United defending might have been sort of in the lead up for that, and they were down 2-1 when Martial was sent off.
I kind of disagree, Tommie. I think they were copying it anyway. Like, they were down 2-1. Spurs were having chance upon chance to make it 3, and then obviously the red card, and I'll let you sort of go into that. But I don't think it changed the result that much.
It was a king hit. That hit was a king hit. He could have killed him.
But so look, I'm going to stick with this, George, because I think I got to say I could totally disagree with you, because like whilst Spurs might have been in good form and like they showed how clinical they can be and how good that combination between Kane and Son is at the moment, I'm not sure it blows out in the same way that it did if Martial stays on the pitch. I don't think the heads drop in the same way that they ended up doing. I think the desire still remains to some degree, and I think we might have seen something more like maybe a 3-2 or a 3-2. I think Spurs are still going to win even with Martial on the field, but I don't think it blows out like it did in that second half with Martial still on the pitch.
The heads had dropped anyway, but I take your point. We'll never know. But I thought the heads were already gone after going 2-1 down and in a barrage of Spurs attacks. But what did you guys think of the red?
Yeah, I find that these kind of reds pretty tough, because I sort of think to myself, like, I know that they have zero tolerance on it, but it is a bit of a farce when you see it like that. But at the same time, he's got to not do that. Everyone knows what the rule is, and he does it anyway. So I just find I think that that legally he's done the wrong thing, but you also know internally that it is a bit farcical, because as we've talked about recently on the pod, to do with penalties and other things, the ultimate punishment when you lose a player, it changes the game entirely.
Is this the football equivalent of losing your license for being 4Ks over the speed limit?
Or maybe jaywalking?
Jaywalking, yeah.
Losing your driver's license for jaywalking. There you go.
that sort of thing could only possibly happen in Victoria.
Yeah.
Oh dear, but we've already talked.
Are you guys of the opinion that if Martial went, Lamela should have gone as well?
Oh, look, I think it was one of those situations where probably giving both players a yellow card is probably the right way to go. Look, I think I can understand the rationale for sending off Martial, though, and I'm not surprised the way that it panned out. But I mean, if it's your club, if you're a Man United fan, you're still going to be dirty about that decision, because it's soft, but at the end of the day, it's stupid as well by Martial. Like, just don't do it.
Brings a new meaning to false nine, isn't it? When your 9 disappears entirely.
The invisible 9.
The invisible 9. And to be fair with Martial's form so far this season, he may as well not have been on the pitch anyway. So I suppose Man United haven't really lost anything there.
Indeed. But look, with this result, Man United slumped to 16th. And let's not forget that the only 3 points that they do have this season, and they don't have any draws, their 3 points came against Brighton, where they got the win literally after full time had already blown. So, things are pretty grim, I guess, at Man United at the moment. And whilst it might be deadline day in the UK today for you, George, I'm not necessarily sure that, and I've been saying this for a while, like I don't think Ole's really up to the job, and I think it's just a matter of time before someone says, hey, like this is an elite level squad. They've poured money into it for years now. Like, shouldn't they be doing better than, I mean, not just now, but even last season? Like, they had a pretty decent squad, and they still only just sort of managed to jag third on the final day of the season when I don't think they'd been in the top 4 for for 70-80% of the season. So I think they were very lucky and really only were able to get into the top four because of Leicester shitting the bed sort of after the restart as well.
Just going back to the original question, though, when he was asking about the defence and one of the things I criticise Man United mostly about is the recruitment, because they are an advertisement for really poor recruitment. They recruit the wrong people at the wrong time and let go of the right players and wrong players, and they bring in Sanchez and then he goes into. It's just they are a model that you should not follow if you want to be successful. And to be honest, going back to the defence, you're probably right. Like going way back to the Neville brothers and stuff like that, they haven't had a decent defence for a very long time. But the truth is that if you look at, like we've just talked about Everton, and we'll talk about them in a second, these teams now need to be able to play out from the back, and they need to be able to counter-attack. And that was one of the great things that Man United used to be able to do. And if they can't even do that, then they're losing their identity. That's probably the biggest issue Man United has at the moment, is they have no identity. And that's like seen in the way the players sort of drop their heads once they've gone down. They haven't got that sort of tenacious fighting spirit, which a lot of Man United fans would be wanting to see from their players. So
seen that as well. But look at the last 4 managerial appointments as well. They've gone from Moyes, who was Sir Alex's sort of anointed successor. Then they went to Van Gaal, who's a completely different manager, and then they went to Jose, who's completely different again. And then they went to Ole. I mean, like there's no plan there, and then there hasn't been a plan at Man United for 10 years, and that's how you get. I guess at least under Jose and Van Gaal, like there was a plan. It just wasn't particularly successful, and they didn't necessarily have the players in which to do what the manager, I guess, wanted. Who was it?
Tommie, I would say the plan was for Moyes to take over and manage for the next, however many years. And the minute they ripped that up, everything else has been done on the fly. And
then the guy left his partner at home with a baby and moved to China for a big money move. Sorry, I got the wrong Moy.
Nice. And I was going to say,
who's he talking about?
Yeah. I was like, I missed that one. And I was going to say, it doesn't look like, apart from sort of Bruno, there aren't any leaders there. There's no leadership on the field.
Well, remember, Maguire was meant to be the leader, and he just seems to be a shell of himself at the moment. And I guess I don't know how much of the Greece thing is sort of playing a bit of a role in that. But I mean, like the problem, I guess, with United is over the last couple of years is good players seem to go there, and you think, oh yeah, good player, like I think this is going to work out, and they get worse after they arrive, and that's a sign that there's something sort of rotten there, isn't it? That the good players,
the shirt, you put the shirt on, and it's just too much for them.
They just don't want it enough.
Exactly.
All right, 2 teams that did want it enough was Leeds and Man City, with Bielsa and Pep reuniting. It seemed like a bit of a two love-struck lovers seeing each other for the first time in a long time. It was a little bit weird, but I mean, there's lots of coaches out there that really love Bielsa, so another way it was kind of touching as well. But look, if Ole and Jose was Luke and Vader, who was this? Who was Pep and Bielsa meeting again?
You've got me there, Tommie. I don't know. I don't watch. I don't read it or watch enough, romance novels and movies to be able to draw a parallel.
That is definitely a lie. I reckon you watch a lot of rom-coms.
Well, maybe more of a Dawson's Creek kind of vibe here, Tommie. Pacey, and I forgot the other character's name. But anyway, maybe one of the listeners can tell me who. No, it's Dawson, wasn't it? Dawson himself. Yeah. So sorry.
Yeah, the guy who the show's named after.
The show's named after him. Yeah. So, I mean, this podcast, it has no limits. I mean, we've gone to the Power Rangers, we've gone to the Planeteers, and now we've got Dawson's Creek in there as well. So
even shoehorned in when Harry Met Sally reference today as well. So I mean, we're pretty much just we're pretty much a pop culture podcast now, as well as a football podcast. But look, pretty wild game, this one. I mean, the scoreline was only 1-1. George, you already mentioned about KDB's free kick early on that almost snuck past Meslier, but this game could have been an advert for, I guess, or a long advert for the Premier League or for Gegenpress, because it was just 100 miles an hour for 95 minutes. It was lots of fun, but it was exhausting to watch because there were no breaks. Like, they couldn't cut to highlights because something was always happening, and it was just awesome to watch. A couple of debuts for City though. You had Ruben Dias. Jesse, I'll let you throw a little bit of mayo on that in a second. And Ferran Torres, he also made his debut. Boys, what did you think of their respective debuts?
Ruben Dias. Pretty solid, considering that I feel like he'd been in England for about 3 days or something. 2 days.
Yeah. So the conditions were a bit rough as well, so he wouldn't have had much time to acclimatise.
Kudos to a lot of the teams that played on the weekend. You were saying George and Weather Chat gets a mention here. It was teeming with rain. It didn't seem to matter if you're in Merseyside, the Midlands, or London. It was absolutely pouring down in the UK on the weekend. So impressive that they played that kind of football with the ball zipping along. But I think this game, Tommie, for me, the highlight was just, as you say, the relentlessness and the how stoic they were with tactics. We just talked before about how it can be a bad thing if you're stubborn with your tactics if you're getting tonked. But this was a great example of just an absolute arm wrestle that they just refused to back down. And love them or hate them with Leeds, you just have to appreciate a team that just refuses to, as I said before, do a Norwich and just keel over. It was just sensational watching some of the overlaps. And I think one of the most pleasing things about watching Leeds at the moment is that, they're pouring forward, and most counter-attack teams just sort of go in a V and give you a couple of options either way. And the thing is with like Leeds is they just sort of you have Dallas and Aileen just sitting next to the mid player. And then you've got sort of Bamford making a run that way, and they all sort of seem to just rotate around each other. They may as well be the solar system of football teams. And it's just really interesting to watch. It's, as you say, as you said before, Tommie, it's absorbing viewing, and it's good for the Premier League. So long may it continue.
Yeah. Like Leeds have given Liverpool problems now. They've now given City problems. So they can attack. But I think anytime I see Ben Mendy on the team sheet, I think my team's going to have a chance.
I've got to say, I've even put it down in the notes about the battle between Helder Costa and Ben Mendy. I thought that was really fun to watch because, I mean, neither of them were particularly good defending, and both were pretty good going forward. I mean, Helder Costa just could not cope with Benjamin Mendy and his big size, and I just couldn't get the ball off of him whenever Mendy went forward. It was absorbing watching, and I mean, a lot of the ball went down that side for both teams, so it meant that it was a real battle between those two particular players.
Guys, tell me is it Padeva? Who was the guy who came on at halftime on the right wing?
I think you're right, yeah, but I can't say his name, yeah.
But he was brilliant, and it was a real signal of intent from Leeds when he came on, and the first touch, he just dribbled past like 3 blokes. I think he earned a corner, or maybe he got fouled, and he really exhibited that kind of confidence that the whole team has at the moment. So,
real silky, like, dribbler vibes as well, like sort of almost like Berbatov sort of vibes, but he was a little bit quicker.
Yeah. I thought it was one of those games where like Sterling could have had 6, but he didn't. He just didn't have his sort of shooting boots on. I thought so.
Yeah, and I mean, also Leeds, like they did work very hard defensively to get the block in whenever there was a bit of a chance it fell to someone like Sterling. And I mean, from that perspective, it didn't feel like City made a whole bunch of chances sort of go to waste. And so I thought Leeds were very good for a point, and it was probably a fair result in the end. So well played for them. But look, it did only give or does leave City with, after 3 matches, 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss, and puts them in 14th place with a negative goal difference as well. So, it's not just the red half of Manchester that are battling at the moment. One thing that I thought was a little bit curious out of this was that I mentioned the pace of the game and how it just didn't seem to stop. There were a couple of occasions where the referee just basically waved on play on because the advantage went to the opposition team. For example, there was one occasion where I think it was Bamford was offside and he had a shot on goal. Ederson saved it, and the linesman's flagging saying it's offside, but by this point Ederson's already saved it, and City just played on. And the referee went, okay, happy with that. And by this point, City had the advantage and were good to counter. And it was just bizarre. I don't think I've ever really seen that where, at least on 2 occasions, the team who would normally take the offside, they just were told, yep, play on. Didn't matter that there was no real advantage gained. So go on, just keep going. Bizarre. The other thing, the other stat that I want to drop is that City have lost their last 10 games. They've lost 10 of their last 36 games, and they've really fallen off a very high perch from that point where they scored. They got up, over 100 points in a season just 2 seasons ago. So, there's something not quite right at City. And I guess Jesse and I, we talked about that last week about sort of the lack of leadership there, and not necessarily sure that Dias and Torres are going to solve those problems. But look, it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun in the meantime, though. Another club that's got problems, but is also a hell of a lot of fun to watch is George's Chelsea at the moment.
Clean sheet, boys. Clean sheet. How about that,
mate? This match honestly was bizarre because I didn't think Chelsea played particularly well, yet they managed to win 4-0, which, I mean, I'm sure you were probably happy with the result, but look, George, were you happy with the way that Chelsea played in this match?
I don't think they played great, to be honest, but I don't think Palace did anything at all. I couldn't even, I was scratching my head 3/4 of the game, through 3/4 of the game, trying to remember when Palace got it past halfway. So I just didn't think that Palace showed up and it played into Chelsea's hands.
Yeah,
I will say that I thought their defending looked much more solid, and I'm going to put that down to Ben Chilwell, who attacked really well and got his goal. But I think he gave us a lot of balance in that back four, and maybe having the keeper there as well. The new keeper was also important, and Zuma had a good game alongside Thiago Silva. So I don't want to draw too many conclusions from this game because I think Palace were just dog shit. But,
I agree with that. I watched this as well, George, and I thought Palace was absolute dog shit. I think it really showed where the game was going to head when Wilf Zaha was just buffing a Red Bull as he went on the pitch. And it sort of made me feel like maybe the whole team was hungover, and they certainly played like that. Also with Chilwell, with that slick hairstyle, bit of Brill cream in there.
I told you, when he moved to London, he's got to sharpen up, Jesse.
Yeah, we talked about this in the group chat. A bit of shield cream, as we call it now, and he looks sharp. I mean,
he looks the part.
I think I don't know if it's just a classic when they have a left foot they look better thing, But the thing about a good left back, and I mean, I've been lucky to have obviously Robertson in the team and for a long time. But if you have a good left back, they just, if they're an advanced left back particularly, it's just very satisfying because they can tie so much together when you've got a good left foot on that side. So he looks like a really good addition.
Balance. And the only other thing I'll say about Chelsea's performance, we could talk about the Tammy Abraham Jorginho thing because that was quite funny. But Hudson-Odoi looked pretty good, and just on transfer chat, I know Bayern have put a bid in for him. But Lampard, at this stage, Lampard said he wants him in the team, but it's up it's up to Hudson-Odoi whether he almost wants to stay this season. So, I thought he was really good and just really dynamic, and we were kind of lacking that sort of guy with that sort of attacking impetus. So it'll be one to watch in terms of whether he stays or goes, especially with Ziyech coming in.
I think it's a great idea if Hudson-Odoi goes out on loan, but Bayern probably isn't the ideal place for him to go, because something tells me he's not going to get more game time there than he will at Chelsea.
Yeah, but in saying that though, Tommie, I mean, Bayern are known for taking, great academy prospects out of London and turning them into world beaters, and popping them on the wing as well.
Bayern usually sort of have 3 to 4 wingers. Like they've always got 2 wide men, and then one or two of them always get subbed off. So you're always going to have a chance to play. Whereas Chelsea, I'm not sure every week that they'll be playing with or needing a winger like that when there's other guys. You got your Pulisic and your Ziyech's and your Timo Werner's playing out wide, which is interesting, with Tammy Abraham up front. So.
Yeah, and look, that's something I've got in my notes about Werner and Havertz and I guess Mount, and like I think Lampard's got a real handful on his plate in terms of not only mixed metaphors, but also how to fit all of those players into a coherent starting 11. And I think that front 3 or front 4 is just a bit of a mess at the moment. And I think he needs to figure out how he's going to fit them all onto the same team. Because for example, I think Werner is actually, now that I've seen him a bit more of his play, I think he would be really well suited to playing for Liverpool off of the left, because I think at the moment where Chelsea are trying to play a far more advanced player in the 10 slot, I think that's not really working for Werner, because it's taking away some of the space that he would normally run into, right? And I also think, I'm not sure that Tammy and Werner can play very well together, because again, you've got too many people trying to operate in the same space, and it's just not. I don't think it's working particularly well. And
the only thing I would say, Tommie, is you can't judge. You can't judge it, because no one's actually played together. Like Pulisic is.
We're talking about, mate. They've played 4 games together.
Yeah. He's chopped and changed the midfield, everyone's position. Like I don't want to jump to conclusions till
I totally agree that
solid
it is very early days, and look, I'm happy to be proven wrong, because I just talk shit on a podcast. I'm not a football manager, at least not professionally, and so look, I'm happy to wait and see. But look, I guess I don't have particularly high hopes. I think someone out of that 4 is going to need to be sacrificed in order to make this into a more coherent.
Watching that game, I actually think that there's a lot of chat about building this team around Havertz, and that continues to be the narrative in the media. But I actually think you build the team around Werner and you put him up front. I don't understand. Like, this is what Leipzig did, and Leipzig did it effectively. And he's a player that we all know that leads the line for Germany, and he's a brilliant player, and he's out on the left because you've got Tammy Abraham up front. Now, no offense to Tammy, but he's got to make way, and you've got to have Werner up the front. And then you've got to, obviously, when you've got your full strength lineup back, you're going to have Pulisic on one wing and Ziyech on the other.
Yeah.
Havertz, the whole Havertz thing figures itself out, because he can just float between the two sides, and there's no sort of central, he doesn't have to stay central, but Werner has to be up the front in that scenario. To get the best out of Havertz, you've got to have Werner up front. So it's a great example of, like, Chilwell comes back. That was an issue. And finally, you start to see that area of the pitch start to improve. So it'll probably be incredibly noticeable when they get Pulisic back on the pitch, as well as Ziyech. But I agree with you, Tommie. In the meantime, it's just a crime seeing Werner out on the left and sort of having to just feed Tammy. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, he did start the first few games up front. I think maybe we just didn't have the cattle on the park to.
No one's feeding him.
No.
There was another tweet that I saw over the weekend, which I thought really summed up Lampard and also Ole, which is that there's no plan, there's no tactics, it's just vibes and good hopes.
What it is, Tommie, is it McFlurry FC, basically. You've gone to the ice cream shop, you've said, I'm just going to get some caramel sauce over my vanilla ice cream, and then you get there and there's good sprinkles, and you go, I'm just going to have a bit of Havertz, I'm going to have a bit of Werner, I'm just going to throw in a little bit of Ziyech or fuck it. And then you get to the end of it and you just full of regret because you've just gone too far. You've put too much on what was already a good thing. So I think Lampard's got a bit of the McFlurry about him where sometimes he just needs to keep it simple and maybe he overcomplicates a good thing.
Regrets FC.
Yeah, I don't have the number in front of me, but I don't think we've had the same starting lineup. You know, there's been a mix and match the whole time Lampard's been managing. So yeah, I think some consistency will be good, and you know, with guys coming back and the defense looking a bit more solid. The only other transfer thing I would say about Chelsea is it looks like Rudiger will go, which is
bizarre.
No one predicted that at the start of the season. So.
Just a quick word from Nasser, actually. Nasser's still yet to confirm if Zuma's come back down from a couple of his headers.
Man, the guy gets them hard, huh?
Impressive.
Yeah, he's looking good. He's looking good.
Yeah, another team that's looking good at the moment, though, is my West Ham. They're looking very good at the moment. 2 successive clean sheets and 7 goals scored. So, things are looking pretty good at the moment for Moyes, who's been working from home very successfully of late. Another goal for Michail Antonio takes him to 10 goals since the Premier League restart earlier in the year, equal with Danny Ings and Raheem Sterling. So, full confession time, fellas. I actually missed the first goal of the first, I think, 20 minutes.
Because I sent you a message on the group chat and it was just radio silence. So I think it was only Damo up.
Yeah, so what was it? 10 o'clock kickoff, and I was 10 minutes until the completion of like the episode of Game of Thrones that I was watching. So I missed the first 20 minutes of the game, and I switched it on and went, holy shit, like we're winning 2-0.
You also missed the whole Game of Thrones thing anyway, because you're probably a few years late now, Tommie.
No, I'm rewatching it. It's different.
He's rewatching it. That makes it even worse. West Ham is coming.
Is hitting you hard.
But let's be honest, mate. Like I'm pretty sure I expected a bloodbath, even worse than Game of Thrones when I was going to be tuning into West Ham versus Leicester. So,
at the end of the day, the West Ham attack sort of overran Leicester like the Dothraki, and yeah. I think there's plenty of other Game of Thrones metaphors I could bring in there, but
come on, mate, just shoehorn in an Irons reference. Come on, you want to.
Yeah, no, it was impressive, Tommie, and this is a real a great example of how a difference in a couple of weeks in football can be, because weren't we just quoting a couple of weeks ago, oh, this is the worst time to be a West Ham fan ever. They were putting out surveys to the fans. I think it was a bleak 8% who had hope for the club this year.
Yep.
What a couple of results how much can that change the mood amongst the fans?
Well, it has, and look, I think generally speaking, fans are really happy with how the team is playing at the moment. I think when we saw the draw, and we had Newcastle first, but then there were 7 games against, or 6 games against the like top 6 teams. We thought, oh, shit, we're not going to get our first points until what, like November or something, and it was a real fear. But I mean, the team's playing really well. I mean, you got Declan Rice of House West Ham who's doing really well at the moment.
And Tommie Fornals actually had a good game, and he's been
okay.
Yeah,
look, I think Fornals has had a pretty rough trot, I think, at West Ham, because like when Moyes came in last season, he was pretty much playing Fornals off of the left, and like he's not a left midfielder, right? But look, I think he's tried really hard, and I think he definitely has a fantastic attitude. And you see him, he works his ass off. He's good technically, and you see he's sort of slowly coming up to speed with the league and its physicality. And having come from Spain, I think he's starting to fit in really well. And I mean, you just got to check out the commentary associated with his first touch to bring down that ball just before he scored as well. I think the fans are starting to appreciate him as well. So it's great. And I think that a midfield 3 of Fornals, Rice and Souček, like that's a great midfield 3, I think, for many teams in the league. So look, just hope, I guess, that they can keep up this form while Moyes stays at home, and hopefully it doesn't all just turn to shit once Moyes comes back to the office.
Well, as long as Mikel Antonio keeps scoring, I think the Hammers will be okay.
But the goals are coming from plenty of places at the moment. I mean, this was Jared Bowen's third goal in 2 games as well. So it's not just Antonio at the moment. There's a great meme though of another player who's working really hard for West Ham at the moment, Mikel Antonio, who's as soon as West Ham get the ball, he just like runs off into the distance. It made me smile. But like the team are working really hard for each other at the moment, and even what's his name? The Paraguayan centre back, name escapes me at the moment, who's playing really well at the moment, and he's a player that looked totally bereft of confidence probably 6 months ago. So Balbuena, that's the one I'm thinking of, and even I thought even he had a pretty solid game. So hopefully they can keep this up.
Yeah,
because I've still got what. Sorry, mate.
I was going to say, I mean, West Ham were great, and Vardy was a doubt for the game, so maybe that didn't quite look his usual sharp self. So maybe that made a big impact.
Didn't have a Red Bull.
Yeah, because Zaha had already drunk them all.
Yeah, Zaha had taken them all. So,
all right. Look, I think it speaks volumes about the weekend and the crazy results. The fact that Everton just went on and won their 4th game in a row, and they're top of the league, and they were like 5th or 6th on our run sheet. Another weekend and another Everton win. It's just the Kazoo vibes are doing the business at the moment. It's their best start to a season since the 1800s. Once you take into consideration their League Cup form as well, but no Allen and no Andre Gomez this weekend, but seemingly no worries for Everton as they took all 3 points away from Brighton. We've been talking about Brighton, I guess, a fair bit this season, but they don't really have hell of a lot to show for some pretty solid performances, though. Bit of a worry for Potter, or?
Very disappointing for Brighton. Like I watched this game quite closely because I was one of the brave few who substituted James Rodriguez out for Trossard in my FPL team. As you can see, that went really well. Trossard still got an assist, a very dubious assist, but I was watching this game very closely, Tommie, and one of the good things about that is I can report back on some of the things that Brighton did really poorly. They had a number of corners in this game. And for some reason, the brief was we're going to take every corner short, including their free kicks. And it was like the commentators were picking up on it, and they were saying, "Why are you doing it? This is like you aren't having many chances to go forward. Use these opportunities." You got Lewis Dunk up in the box waiting for the ball. He never got it. It was just some very questionable tactics. And in the same way that we've criticised Klopp for his tactics and not changing them, you have to criticise Potter. I mean, I really like Potter, but I just don't really get what he was trying to achieve by just doing the same thing over and over again. I mean, Trossard's standing over the dead ball, and he's got a great whip cross in him, and I don't think he even got a cross in. It was just utterly bizarre, and it was a real anticlimax, I thought, because I thought Brighton could have given Everton a real scare here. And they just seemed to just pass themselves into submission. They looked very tidy with the ball, but they just never looked like they had that cutting edge.
Still missing penetration, which was the same problem as last season, right? Like they've brought in some good players, but the same problems still persist, I think.
And they're not picking up points. You know, they had the Man U game, and now and this one to a much lesser extent, the Man U one they should have got points out of, and it's going to matter at the end of the season when you have your chance to win or collect a point at least, and you don't. It's going to add up with. I mean, there are some teams at the bottom who are not good, so that they might get lucky again. But a few other teams have improved, so you know it's going to be tough.
Whilst there was a lot of teams that I guess that don't look forward to the international break because all of their players go away, a lot of clubs like the likes of Brighton, who don't have a lot of players who will go away on international duty, I think they'll really appreciate the break because it'll give them an opportunity to refocus and so forth. And I think they'll come back really strong after the break again. So.
Just on Everton, Tommie. Good to see Wobes in there and getting some assists.
Good deliveries.
Yeah. I think that seems to be probably Don Carlo's biggest achievement so far this season is getting a tune out of Iwobi because, I think it might have been on the preview pod that I was saying, the guy's just a spud and I don't think I've ever seen him ever seen him have a big game.
Didn't stop him playing a couple of absolute spud diagonals there, Tommie. Maybe he should maybe he should just reel those in. But no, you're absolutely right. And I think it was with Everton. What I was really impressed with one of the moments in the game for me wasn't even the goal. It was actually they played it into the back right corner. Coleman sort of started it off. They played it out of defence. They're not passing back to Pickford because he's a complete liability. They try and go out from there, and they managed to get out of this really tight space, which have complemented City over the years and that sort of thing. They've got out of a tight space, and then bang, they're on the counter attack, and they've fizzed it wide. And a lot of that you can attribute to James being so comfortable in small spaces. But it's a real trend. It's something that we're seeing Arsenal do a lot as well. Like Bellerin will be in that corner. You're thinking they're not going to get out of there. And then they find a way to fizz it out to the left back. And all of a sudden you've got Digne on his bike. So not only do they look good going forward and finishing a lot of their chances, they actually have an ability to get out of some tight spaces where in the past Everton would have just hacked it long. With no sort of ability to get out of those tight spaces. So it shows you that Ancelotti's working on a lot more than just some of the obvious things. It's the technical stuff.
The reinvention of Gylfi as well. It's all.
How can you have Gylfi? How can you have Gylfi and James on the same on the pitch at the same time and not get over a run in midfield? Like Brighton really made them look fantastic. Like surely those two on the field at the same time. It's unbelievable.
It shouldn't work, but it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Calvert-Lewin, of course.
Yeah. Look, one final thing, which was for Yerry Mina's goal. Did you guys catch the goal celebration for this one? The Macarena?
Bit of a throwback to some of the 2014 World Cup purists. That was Hummus's goal against who was it?
Japan. Ivory Coast.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
And yet Yerry's header was against England, so there'd be some flashbacks there.
Yeah, it would have been some triggered Englishmen over the weekend, I suspect.
Yeah.
Look, moving on though, one person who would have been triggered, which was our Daddy Damo, triggered by yet another Sheffield United loss though. Sheffield United really struggling at the moment, pointless. They finally managed to get their first goal though, so that's a positive that they can draw out of this game. But
McGoldrick as well, bit of a surprise that he scored.
Well, and what a goal as well. I actually thought that was a really nice, like a really well taken goal from just outside the box. Another couple of good goals as well from Saka and Pepe.
Speaking of Game of Thrones characters, I mean, I woke up and saw goal McGoldrick assist Baldock, and I thought, maybe here are a couple of guards at Winterfell. Those two blokes. How about the names?
I thought you were going to say like David Luiz was like with that hair. I reckon there's a Game of Thrones character in there somewhere.
Oh, there certainly is. Yeah,
he wouldn't speak the common tongue though, would he? One thing that like sort of caught my eye, I guess, out of this was David Luiz pulling the shirt of Ollie Burke just after he dispossessed him, and although Leno sort of snuck in and got to the ball, it was only just ahead of Ollie Burke, and ultimately the referee didn't call a foul, didn't call anything on this one. Do you think David Luiz and Arsenal got away with one here?
I think if Leno hadn't been out so fast, and I think it was clearly that he was going to win the ball. I think it would have been looked at, and they probably would have sent Luiz off. So Leno's just done him a massive favour, because the shirt, when you slow it down, it's clear. But I just didn't think he was ever going to get the ball because Leno was out so quickly. So lucky.
Even in real time, it's like a blatant shirt pull. It's just that whether or not you consider that he's going to make it or not. And I guess we saw that earlier on in the season with it was Ollie Watkins, and it was Sheffield United as well. Actually, on the other side of this, I think it was John Egan that got sent off.
Yeah.
And I mean, John Egan was adjudged that he basically pulled back Ollie Watkins, and that Ollie Watkins was going to get onto the ball in that case, and Egan got sent off. So I guess Sheffield United sort of not necessarily getting the rub of the green here.
David Luiz, watching David Luiz is a little bit sort of voyeur, isn't it? Because the camera's on him, but he doesn't realise. And that's the way he plays. There's about 100 cameras watching what David Luiz is doing, and he plays.
He's an exhibitionist.
Yeah, he's playing like there's nobody else on the park, and you're like, mate, we can all see what you're doing. All right, put it away.
I thought Saka was really good just on Arsenal as well. He scored a goal and he got called up to England, the England squad as well. So big week for him.
Yeah, and he's a player that seems to be just sort of ticking over really nicely. Continues to develop really well. Continues to contribute, and good signs ahead for him and England, I guess. Southampton managed to swat away West Brom, 2 well-taken goals, first from Gineppo and Romeo. Not really much to write home, I thought, about West Brom's performance. I thought they were pretty average. 3 good points for Southampton at home, where, strangely, they've struggled for points historically over the last sort of 12, 18 months.
Clean sheet. Guys, we've talked a lot about goals and goal difference and things like that, but I think that clean sheets are going to be worth their weight in gold this year because, I mean, geez, they've been few and far between for most teams. And if you can keep a clean sheet, if you're especially one of the teams that are in that logjam in the mid-table come the second half of the season, clean sheets can be the difference between you being in a relegation battle potentially and not. So... critical.
I think we should start a little tally, clean sheet watch. So
you wouldn't be very busy with that, I think, because there hasn't been many clean sheets. Yeah. Which is why it's even weirder that like West Ham have kept 2 on the trot. I don't think we've kept 2 clean sheets successively for, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years or something ridiculous like that. And to do it in the current climate, it's just bizarre.
You're like one of the Melbourne quarantine hotels, mate. A couple of clean sheets and I feel like don't need to change them anymore.
No clean sheets there.
Well, that's the irony, isn't it?
Given the work of some of the security guards.
Yeah.
It's like Chris Brown's place, no clean sheets.
Oh, jeez.
Speaking of clean sheets, though, Wolves, we talked about them a little bit last week and how they've been struggling as well. They managed to knock over struggling Fulham. Pedro Neto getting the goal there. You can see why they call him Pedro Neto.
Back of the Neto.
Semedo made his debut as well. So
he did. And it looks like Wolves have sold another fullback as well with Vinagre. He looks like he's headed off. Escapes me my memory right now. Yep, that's the one. Yeah. And I've got a young French fullback in to replace him as well.
Just for all those playing along at home, that actually does mean vinegar. So I think it's a great name. I've always enjoyed Vinagre. Yeah, Neto, Tommie, I brought Neto into my fantasy team this week. Again, one of the gambles. And Jimenez blanks and Neto pops up for a goal. So it was pretty chuffed with that. But he's kind of the forgotten man in there because a lot of people are talking about Podence and his call up to the Portugal team. I mean, I know that we're watching Portugal B every week when we watch Wolves. But promising signs to have Neto firing in and getting a goal because, I mean, he seems to be the heir apparent to Jota in that position for now. So yeah,
similar sorts of players, both Portuguese and getting similar results as well. Neto has been really good this season and the back end of last season as well. Finally finishing up though, Newcastle, they hosted...
Sorry, Tommie, I just wanted to make a quick mention to Fulham. Who there's not a lot to talk about with Fulham at the moment, but I did watch the second half of this game, mainly because I was sweating on Wolves, and I watched the second half, and Lookman, he was sensational when he came on for Fulham. I don't know if you guys caught any of this. If you haven't, go back and have a look. His second half performance was magnificent. I mean, I know it was a very...
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not.
No, I'm being serious. I'm being serious. There was 2 guys that came on for Fulham. I've forgotten the other guy's name. But Lookman came on in the second half and was creative, was fast, was attacking, looked very good technically on the ball. And it was real bright in areas to huff and puff and then not create any actual chances. But he looked very good and a breath of fresh air for the Fulham team because they just looked like they had no impetus at all. But he came on and looked really, really good. So keep an eye on him. It's my hot pick.
I think they're going to, from memory, he's pretty quick, and I think they're going to need some pace because, I mean, Mitrovic offers like 0 pace. So they're going to need something up front to move around defenses or, I mean, like they're also going to be defending pretty deep. So I think they need some pace to be able to help out Mitrovic as well.
Cabano, that's the one. Brett's got it.
Cavano.
Yep. He was great.
Shout out for Cabano there. Thanks, Brett.
I'm on Brett's wavelength. Listen, Brett. Don't tell all the viewers, all right? Okay. I'm keeping an eye on him.
Also got a fantasy hint there as well, saying Lookman's good 5.0 option for fantasy as well.
That's
so
what I'm saying,
Brett.
Tommie. I'm saying, Brett, let's just keep this as a secret. Right?
Ooh. All right, just to finish up though, Newcastle hosted Burnley. Some of their early season positivity seems to be ongoing though. Obviously, they beat West Ham in the first game week, and some Maximum here kicked things off with a really nicely taken goal, beating Pope. And then Callum Wilson also got one as well from the penalty spot. Burnley still struggling, still pointless, although they were definitely in this one, but obviously they're really missing Ben Mee and Jack Cork in particular. They'd be very happy to have Ashley Barnes back. I think he played 60 or 70 odd minutes, so he's a great it's great to have him back, but still Burnley really struggling, and I think we all picked them for mid-table, but I think they could be closer to the relegation zone depending on how quickly it is before Cork and Mee come back.
So Maximum was just electric, and Callum Wilson 2 goals, another 2, just loving life at Newcastle.
Well, like what we mentioned before about sort of like the template for playing against teams like Liverpool and City, and like so Maximum, he's perfect for that because he's big and he's strong and he's technical and he can beat a player, and like he's a real handful.
But he's got no end product. He's got no end product, and then he goes and does that. It was,
yes, exactly.
But it was great. It was great to see him because he's come back from an injury as well. He was out for a week or so, but
I think he's back injured again now as well.
Because I think Burnley were targeting his ankles.
Actually, also Semedo, I think, went off with maybe a wee niggle as well. We forgot to mention that. But I was just going to say, guys, going back to the Newcastle game, they were actually, there was a genuine worry about their defence after Brighton tailed them up at home as well. So they'll be pleased to get through with a few goals and a convincing win, because I think Newcastle were a little bit concerned going into that game about their defence. So it'll be pleasing for Steve Bruce.
Here. Yeah. But look, that
manager of the month, Steve Bruce.
Apparently, look, I was talking to John Stomo, friend of the pod, this afternoon, and he was saying that there's plenty of Newcastle fans out there that aren't really happy with how Newcastle are doing at the moment. And they think that with more of the with the investment that they have had over the summer, that they should be doing better. Which look, I think maybe it says more about Newcastle supporters than it does about than how Steve Bruce is doing. Because look, maybe just me speaking, but I think Steve Bruce is doing a bloody bang-up job at the moment.
Well, is it time to drop Callum Wilson for Andy Carroll?
Ooh, that is a big call.
No, I'm not suggesting it. Is that what they're suggesting? That's just to clarify, I'm not suggesting that.
We all want a toilet seat made.
I was going to say that's a terrible call.
we all want a toilet seat made out of solid gold, but we can't have everything in life, can we? So get real.
Oh, jeez. All right. Look, speaking of golden toilet seats, though, it's now time to announce one of our FPL monthly prizes, though. Just recently we were saying that we announced the prizes and that we're going to be giving away a monthly prize for the best total score each month. And this month, the prize goes to Mike Wise. So Mike's team, Killian in the name of, also got a great team name, I've got to say. His team wins this month's prize with 225 points, or an average of 75 per week. So even if he did use his bench boost 1 week, which I think only gave him like 4 or 6 points or something like that. So look, congratulations, Mike. You win the massive prize of $20. So congratulations, Mike. Don't spend it all at once, but maybe let us know what you're spending on. I've got to say, as I was sort of preparing for this, I thought to myself, a $20 prize is real, like sort of like a birthday card from your nan sort of territory. Like you're sort of thinking, oh yeah, $20, cool, but you can't like be unhappy about it because it's a present from your nan.
That's right.
Oh dear. All right. finally, look, what everyone's really here for when we talk about fantasy football, though, is how the MTAG hosts are all going. And Jesse, you are absolutely flying at the moment. You're up to with this weekend's results taken into consideration as well. You're up to 5th in the overall More Than a Game league. So congratulations, Jesse. George, I didn't get far enough down the list to catch either you or I. So
who put that tweet up a few weeks ago? Because I've got Timo
about Werner.
Yeah, so I've backed him in since the start of the season. So just waiting for him to come good.
Mate, this is the problem with using Club Allegiance.
Him and Kai
mate, there's a real parallel here. I put in the group chat, George, that Werner looks like a bloke off Lost, the TV show.
And, that was good. I saw that.
And I was just thinking, like, there are more things to that than you first notice. I mean, like Lost, the more that you hold them in your team, the more and more you regret how far you got into that season. And by the time you get to the end of it, you're really you're just watching it just for the closure rather than the enjoyment.
Trying to figure out an ending. But
when he does finally score a goal, will you actually be happy? That's the question I've got.
Well, Jesse,
just throw the remote at the TV and just
one in the Carabao Cup. He has scored one in the Carabao Cup. So
yeah.
Right. Well, there you go. You can check out now, George. All right, that wraps things up for this week, though. More Than a Game is going to be taking a bit of a break next week with with the international break, and there's no A League, there's no W League, there's no Socceroos or Matildas, though. So you'll be able to catch us again in 2 weeks' time. Of course, we'll be still doing YouTube videos, and of course, then roughly about 24 hours later, we can upload that as a podcast as well. So in the meantime, though, I'm sure there'll be plenty of content on Facebook and Twitter from us. As always, though, you can also email us at mtagpodcast@gmail.com. But until next time, enjoy the football.
Yeah, happy deadline day, boys.
Happy deadline day indeed.
May all your wishes come true. Except if you're a Man U fan.